So welcome grade 10s. First and foremost, do I perhaps have to zoom out of this? No. Well, I am actually gonna zoom out. Can you guys still see like this? Is the screen still fine like this? You can maybe just, yeah, give me a reaction. Everything can see. Cool. Just so that I can have space to maybe do calculations on the side. Yeah, we'll see about that, how that goes. I'm thinking, yeah, I maybe wanna add some space here. Nope. I don't get it. Okay, it's fine. I'll just do it all on the side. So let us, and I don't want us to look at 7.2 just yet. So let's focus on 7.1. If at any point you want to attempt to answer, I would love that. Just raise your hand and we can talk about it. You don't have to know the answer. You don't have to get it right. I will literally talk you through it. But for now, it looks like Teacher Coco has taken us a past paper question on finance. Obviously, whatever this past paper was, it was question 7. And they have said Zach likes to travel. He saved 5,000 Rand as spending money for his vacation in Australia at the end of 2015. Zach looks up the exchange rate on the internet. Using the information in the table below, calculate how many, and here's my question, how many Australian dollars can Zach buy for 5,000 Rand? Now, first things first, I can see they've given me the exchange rate here to the equivalent of 1 Rand, and then the Rand equivalent of 1 unit of our foreign currency. So what are we thinking? Anybody want to tell me what they would do here? In the meantime, I guess I will start. So remember, whenever we're doing these exchange rate questions, I said to you guys, you are always going to want to use this method. It is a shortcut. It doesn't require you to think about it. And when I say shortcut, sometimes it does require a little bit of extra calculations, but it's always better to do it because it is a foolproof way. You're never going to get it wrong like this. Whereas if you try to do it just from like your general knowledge, you might end up doing a wrong calculation. So, first things first, you always want to go. He has rands and he has the Australian dollar. I obviously do not know what is the currency symbol for the Australian dollar, but I'm just going to leave it at that. So, you're going to set up 2 columns for your respective currencies. What I know is I know that he has 5,000 Rand, but I don't know how much that is in Australian dollars. So I've now set up my first little equation over here. The next thing that I want to set up is I want to set up a second one. And now I could do it either which way. I could go here and I could say, well, I know 1 Rand is going to be 0,105058. And then what do? We cross multiply. So remember, we are going to cross multiply that and cross that. So what would happen is 1 times x is going to give me x, which would equal to 5,000 multiplied by the 0,105058. So we could have done it that way, and then I'll wait for somebody to tell me what the answer is there. Or you could have set it up differently. You could have said, okay, well, 5,000 Rand is equals to X Australian dollars. But I know that 9 Rand 51 cents 85.69. So I've taken this now from this side. I know that 9,5 rands is equals to 1 Australian dollar. And then you could have cross multiplied. And what you would have gotten is you would have gotten 9,5 what x is equals to 5,000 times 1, which is just 5,000. And you would have gone and it would have been 5, and let me actually put x on the side. It would have been 0,51. No, what am I doing? That's a 9. 9,518,569. X is equals to 5,000. To get x by itself, we divide by 9,518,569. And I have to divide by the same thing on the other side. So 9,578,569. Oh, I almost fit it in. Let's try this again. There we go. I've given myself a little bit more space, but it's still not going to work. 569. What happens is my multiplication and division on this side cancel out. I'm just left with x. And you'll see if you do this calculation and if you do this calculation, they should give you the same thing. You prefer the first one. 100%, obviously, when you see it, you'll know that you prefer the first one because you've now seen the calculations. But obviously, in a test situation, you won't know which one to use. You won't know which one is going to be the easiest one. So you can sort of, obviously, once you practice, you'll tend to see which one will be the easiest one. But if you don't know, you can use both. As long as you set up your equations in the right way, you'll get the same answer for both of them. And let us see. Oko and Mamelo have two different answers, but I think Mamelo's answer looks correct. 525,29. And let me just do this calculation to double check. 5,000 divided by 9.57. Oh, and that's a 5-1. My handwriting. 5185. 518569. I'm getting 525, 289, which will be rounded off to 29. So same answer, different calculations. So it doesn't matter which exchange rate you use, whether you use the direct or the indirect exchange rate. Remember on, when was it? Monday. On Monday, we did the exchange rate lesson where we spoke about what was a direct and what was an indirect exchange rate. So when you're given both, it doesn't really matter which exchange rate you use. As long as you set up your equation correctly, you'll get the same answer. You'll get the answer you need to. Okay. Cool. So let us now look at 7.2. And 7.2 says Zach plans to make another trip to Australia at the end of 2018. Assume that the average annual inflation, the average annual rate of inflation in South Africa will be 6.1% over the next 3 years. In 2018, what amount of money will be the equivalent of 5,000 Rand now? Any ideas on how we are going to complete this? Anybody? We are up to 13 of us in here. So I would hope, fortunate you're 100%, we're using compound interest. So immediately, somebody tell me, what was my compound interest formula? Anybody? What's the difference between compound and single? A very good question. If you look at how interest works, okay, so when we're looking at the difference between simple interest and compound interest, let's say I have an investment. I go to the bank, I tell them I have an investment. I tell them I have 10,000 Rand to give you. Okay, and the bank tells me they're going to give me interest at 12% per annum. Okay, 12% per annum. And I forgot my percentage sign. At 12% per annum. And then they say they can either give me this 12% per annum either in simple interest or they can use compound interest. Now, what happens is when we use simple interest, your interest amount, your interest amount is calculated using your original value. Using your original. So in other words, because we know the formula, your original value is going to be your P value. Okay? So every interest amount that you earn is going to be calculated using the original value. When we look at compound interest, with compound interest, your interest is calculated using your P value, so your original value, plus any interest that's been added so far. So in other words, if we look at year one of this, my investment of 10,000 Rand, 12% interest. To calculate your year one interest under your simple interest, it will just be 10,000 Rand times 12% for year one. And what is that giving me? I think it should give us 1,200 or 120, yes, 1,200. There we go. And for compound interest, it's going to be the same thing in year one. Okay, you're going to get 10,000 Rand times 12%, and that's going to give you 1,200. But in year two is when it becomes different. And let me use orange. In year two, your simple interest calculation, your interest is always calculated using this original P value. So in year two, your simple interest is going to be 1,200 Rand again. But for your compound interest is now going to be, remember, we're going to take our P value, which is the 10,000 Rand, plus any interest that we've earned already. And then we're going to multiply that by 12%. And that's going to give me my interest for year two. And so this is going to give me now 11,200 that my interest is calculated on. And then this is going to be 1,344. And so this carries on throughout the years. In year three, my interest for simple interest is still going to be 1,200. But for my compound interest, it's going to be the 11,200 that I got from here last time, plus my 1,344. And then I'm going to multiply that by 12%. So simple interest, it's simple because it always uses the first amount. It always uses your principal amount to calculate your interest. Whereas with compound interest, it's literally, if you think about what a compound is, it's literally like something that you build together, right? It's like one thing on top of another. So when we talk about compound interest, it's interest that's charged on interest on interest on interest. So when we earn interest, we add it to that original amount, and then my new interest is calculated. And then you add it again, and then the new interest is calculated. So that is the difference. Mamelo, I hope that answered your question. So going back here, we are looking at our inflation question, and Fortunate has been so kind to give me the formula, and that is the correct formula. So my A is equal to my p-value 1 plus I to the exponent of n. Now, what I want you guys to see is on Monday, we learned a new formula involving our m value. because this is a question dealing with inflation, there's no compounding monthly or daily with inflation. With inflation, whenever you see an inflation question, um, you can assume your m is going to equal to 1. So if we were to use that formula with our m here, all that would happen is it would be I divided by 1 and n times 1. So you can see that doesn't make a difference. So we can use this formula and go ahead with that. Let's look at what we're going to substitute in. It says our average rate of inflation is 6.1. So this is my I, that's my interest over the next 3 years. So I can see that's going to be my N. In 2018, what amount of money will be equivalent to the value of 5,000 Rand now? So this is basically my present amount, my original amount. So I'm calculating the future amount, which will be in 2018. Right now, we have 5,000 Rand. We want to see what is it going to be in 3 years' time with an inflation rate of 6.1%. Let's all do this calculation and see what we get. 5,000 plus 6.1%. I am getting, oh, that's multiplication, plus 5971,95 Yvonne 100%. 5971,95. And so right now we have 5,000 Rand, but in 3 years' time, the equivalent of 5,000 Rand will be 5,971 Rand. And if you think about how inflation works, that makes sense. What you could buy with 10 Rand 5 years ago is not the same as what you can buy with 10 Rand today. If anything, something like 20 Rand today is the same thing as what 10 Rand was 5 years ago. So that is that on our 7.2.1. Let's read now 7.2.2. They have said Zach plans to invest equal amounts into a savings account on 1 December 2016 and 1 December 2017, so 1 year after each other, to have accumulated an amount of 5,980 Rand on the 1st of December 2018. If this account earns interest at 9% per annum, compounded annually, how much money should Zach deposit into the account on each occasion? Now, this one is a little bit of a tricky one, but it's really not so bad. So what we are saying is firstly, we're going to use compound interest. What I want you guys to see is because it's compounded annually, I can use the same formula as what I have here. I do not have to use the formula with an M because there's only one compounding period in my year. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say this is going to be A is equals to P1 plus I to the exponent of N. But now what he's saying is that he wants to invest twice. So what I want you guys to see is that I actually have two investments that's going to add up to one amount. I have two investments that's going to add up to one amount. That's essentially what's happening. He's making an investment on the 1st of December 2016 and another investment on the 1st of December 2017. And at the end of it all, they are both going to add up to 5,980. So I'm going to say that this 5,980 is going to be my future value. And remember, this future value is supposed to be the sum of investment number 1 plus investment number 2. Okay? So if you're confused about why I added this P1 plus I again, it's because I had two investments. I'm trying to create one equation so that I can solve for my unknown. Okay. And so what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to say we're looking for these p amounts. Remember, because these p amounts are equal amounts, I can make them one equation because the p represents the same value in both of my parts over here. So my p is my unknown over here. It's going to be 1 plus my interest is 9% per annum. And again, because it's compounded annually, I don't have to worry about that M value. And my first investment is invested on the 1st of December 2016. And we're going to remove that investment in 2018. So somebody tell me, what is my N value going to be? What is my N value going to be? If I deposit the money in 2016 and I remove the money in 2018. So not quite 1 and not 3 either. If we look at a timeline, on the timeline here we have December 2016. It would be December 2017 and December 2018. Now, I know obviously there are 3 years here, but if you do your bunny hops 1, 2, you can see only 2 years has passed. So this was year 1 and this will be year 2. So my N is going to be 2. Okay. Then for my second one, it's going to be P1 plus my interest is still 9%. And now my N, I've now invested here in 2017. So what is my N going to be if I take it out in 2018? 100% fortunate. It's going to be 1. Okay. Now that we have this, we can solve. So the first thing I want to do is I almost want to factorize because I think it's gonna make solving this equation easier for me. So if I were to factorize, I would be taking p out as a common factor. So let's see. I'm not sure if this is gonna lead me to my answer, but let's see how it goes. I'm taking p out as a common factor, and I'm gonna have a bracket in here: 1 plus 9% squared plus 1 plus 9% to the power of 1. Okay. Do we all understand what I just did there? How I took p out as a common factor? Mamelo is worth me, Malebogeng. Let's look at what we did. Remember, when you take something out as a common factor, okay, all you're doing is you're taking that term and you're dividing it by what you take out as a common factor. So if you look at what I did, all I did was I took out p as my common factor. So if I've taken out p as my common factor, what I do is I then go take my term, which is p, 1 plus 9% squared. Remember, a term is anything separated by a plus or minus. So right now, this whole thing here is one term, and this whole thing here is one term. So I've taken my first term, I have taken out p as my common factor. Meaning, when I take something out as a common factor, you have to divide that term by p. And when I divided by p, what happened is my p's cancel out here. And what I was left with was my 1 plus 9% squared. Now, if you take something out as a common factor, think about when you have something like this: 2x plus xy. If you take out x as a common factor, think about what you do. Over here, you will have 2 left over because you said 2x divided by x. You have 2 left over plus, we're taking out x, so xy divided by x was going to leave me with y. So you take out your common factor, you leave that outside your brackets, and then whatever's left over from those terms, you add them up inside your bracket at the bottom. So that's what I did here. I took p out from this first term, and what was left was this bracket. So I didn't let it confuse me. I said if I were doing it like this, I would have written whatever was left as the first thing in my bracket. So that's what I did over here. I said, okay, well, I divided by p, and this is what I was left with. Plus, I divide by p the second term, and I'm left with this second bracket again. So I hope that made a little bit more sense. You guys can let me know, are we with me now, or do you need a further explanation? Are we sure? I only see Malebocheng, but I know that more people were confused. So I hope that we're all with me. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to make it easy for me to solve for P. Now that I have P as one variable here outside my brackets, I can divide both sides by this whole bracket, which will be 1 plus 9% squared plus 1 plus 9% to the power of 1. I don't really need to put my brackets outside here. I could if I wanted to, but it's not really necessary right now. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I know it's a lot to put in your calculators, but put it in for me and tell me what it is that you are getting. 1 plus 9% to the power of 1. And then remember what will happen here is all of this will cancel and we will just be left with P on my right-hand side, which is great because I'm looking now for that last amount. One plus 9% squared plus 1 plus 9%. Okay, I have my answer. I'll wait for somebody. 100% Molebokeng, that's the same answer I got. 2624,99. So this is the amount that we had to invest on the 1st of December 2016 and the 1st of December 2017 in order for us to take out an amount in 2018 of 5,980. Now, I know that was a lot, but let me know, how are we feeling? Are we okay with this question? Does anybody want me to repeat it? Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs ups, which is great. Okay, I'm going to move on then. We are going to look at the next little bit of our question. So they have an advert over here. Buy a Samsung J5 for only $229 per month. You have 24 months to pay. No deposit is required. 7.1, pretty easy. Calculate the total amount to be paid over a period of 24 months. Somebody tell me, what would we do here? What is the sum for me to calculate that? So be careful, fortunate. It is not 299, but yes, it is 229 times the 24 months. This is what we're paying every month. This is how many months we're paying it for. And that is going to give me 5,496 prints, 100% correct. Okay, so that's the answer for my first one. Not too bad. Okay. When we look at 7.2, it says the monthly installment quoted in the advert is calculated on a hire purchase agreement. Somebody tell me, when I hear hire purchase agreement, am I thinking compound interest or am I thinking simple interest? Simple interest, 100%. So I know immediately when I see hire purchase, I'm thinking simple interest. So the monthly installment is calculated on a hire purchase agreement with charges interest Oh, which charges interest of 7.5% per annum on the cash price of the cell phone. Show that the cash price of the cell phone is 4,779 Rand and 13 cents. So they've told us what the price is, but they want us to give them a calculation to prove that. So all that we are going to do is we sort of want to reverse engineer our formula. And if we look at what our formula is for simple interest, it's my A value is equals to P1 plus I times N. Okay, so this is my simple interest formula. And so I know my A value. What is my A value? Does anybody know what my A value is? Do we know where I'm getting my A value? Yes, Tehofatso?
It is 5,496.
100%. 5,496. Thank you very much. And my P value would be the price of my cell phone. But now I'm not going to substitute this 4,700 in. Why? They want me to prove it. So fine, I'll leave this as my unknown. 1 plus, what is my I? My I, they've given me my I, which is 7.5%. So that's going to be 7.5% multiplied by what is my N? 24 months is my N. And 24 months will give me what value for N?
2 years.
2 years. Thank you very much. So 2 years. Now you can see we have our unknown over here of P. Before I even solve what's in the bracket, I can see I can divide by this whole bracket to get P by itself. So that is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to divide on the other side as well. 1 plus 7.5% multiplied by 2. And then that will leave me with P over here. Remember, these brackets will now cancel out with each other. And what am I left with on the other side? Okay, I am getting 4,779,13, which I've now done what they've asked me. I have proved that the price of the cell phone is what they've said it is. 4,779 Rand 13 cents. Molebogeng, thank you for your answer. Let's look at the next question. The next question says calculate the total interest paid over a period of 24 months if the cell phone is bought with this hire purchase agreement. How are we going to calculate the interest?
We take 5,496 and subtract 4,799,13.
100%. Thank you very much again, Tefofatso. So we take our, and let me actually do it here. My interest amount is going to be my A value, so your future value less your P value. If you need to calculate the interest, this is what you are going to do. You're going to take your future value, you're going to less your present value. So my future value was the 5,496 minus 4,779 Rand 13 cents. What are we getting? Let's see. 547. No, 5496. I have an amount of 716 Rand 87 cents. So that is going to give me the interest that I've paid on this phone. Okay. Moving on to the next one, it says that the cell phone is insured at 11.5% per annum of the cash price. The total insurance is calculated and then split up over 24 months. It is then added to the monthly installment. Calculate the new monthly installment if the customer wants to insure the cell phone. So first things first, they said that our cell phone is insured at 11.5%. Yvonne, do you want to help me?
Ma'am, I just have a question.
Yes?
For the previous question, when you're finding interest, once you get like the amounts in rands or whatever currency,
Mhm.
don't you times it by 100 to get the percentage, or that's not necessary?
So you should be very careful because here they asked for total interest paid. If they're asking for interest paid, what you should know is you should know it should be in a rand amount. If they are asking for the interest rate, that is when you would be looking for a percentage. So there's a difference between the interest amount that you pay and your interest rate. Remember, my interest rate, the 7.5%, is the one that we want in a percentage form. But when we actually calculate what is the rand value of this interest I'm going to pay, that is what they asked me for here in this question. And that is why this is actually in the unit of a rand and not in a percentage format. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Pleasure. So looking at this question again, they said my cell phone is insured at 11.5% per annum of the cash price. Total insurance is calculated and then split up over 24 months. So in other words, what I'm thinking is I'm going to say I want to know 11.5% per annum multiplied by the price of my phone. So 4,779 Rand 13 cents. And because it's for 2 years, I'm multiplying by 2 as well. And that is going to give me the total value of my insurance. Because remember what they said? They said the total value of the insurance is calculated and then split up over 24 months. So if I go and I do this calculation, let's see what I get. I am getting 1099, comma 1999. Molebogeng, I think you maybe had in an extra number there, but your answer is pretty similar to mine. Now, I'm not rounding off y because I'm just going to use this answer straight in my calculator and I'm going to divide it by 24 months. Okay. And what that is going to give me is it's going to give me now what's added on to my monthly installment. And so my add on is going to be my 1099,1999 divided by 24. And what I'm getting is 45 Rand 79.9, no, 799. And when we round that, it becomes 45.80. Okay. Now that we have that 45.80, what is my new installment? Does somebody want to tell me how would I calculate my new installment? Okay. Remember, guys, our installment is going to be what our old installment was, which was the 229 Rand, plus my add on of insurance, which is 45 Rand 80. Okay. So let's do this calculation, please, and tell me what it is we are getting. I am getting, let's see if I can do it manually. 9 plus 5 is 14. Carry the 1. 3 and 4 is 7, and that's going to give me 2. Prince, just double check your answer. There we go. We should be getting this 274 and 80 cents. Okay, so that is that. We've done quite a lot of this. Let's look at this last one in this group. The cost of the cell phone is subject to inflation and increases to a cash price of 5,100 Rand after 2 years. Calculate the annual inflation rate. So again, with inflation, am I using compound or simple interest?
Compound.
Compound interest, 100%. So I'm going to put in my compound interest formula. And again, because it's inflation, whenever I say an inflation question, I know I don't have to worry about my M values. So A is equals to P, 1 plus I, exponent of N. Let's look at what we see. I see that this 5,100 is going to be my future value. 2 years is going to be my N. And my present value is going to be the cost of my cell phone up here. So I see I have one unknown. I'm going to substitute in, and I'm going to solve.
Later.
What is my p-value? 4779, 13. And then 1 plus I. The exponent of n is 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by my 4779, 13. So divide by 4779, 13. The next thing I see, I need more space to do this one. Okay, so I'm going to divide by that. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I can see this is going to cancel out, and I'm going to be left with my bracket. Immediately what I want to do with my bracket is I need to remove this exponent on the outside. So I am going to square root it. So I'm going to have this. I'm not going to put it in my calculator just yet. You can if you want, but for me, I know it's easier to just do it all at the end. I'm going to square root that. And if I see what happens here, I would have been left here with 1 plus I squared. And now I've also square rooted that. What's going to happen here? My root and my square is going to cancel. And then what happens is I'm going to transpose this 1 over to the other side. And that will leave me with my I is equals to the root of 5,100 divided by 4,779, 13 minus 1. Remember, this was actually the formula that we manipulated in one of our previous lessons. So if you remember what that is, it was I is equals to A over P square root less 1. So that's exactly what we've now got at the end here. Put this in your calculators. Tell me what it is you're getting as your interest rate. And remember, we spoke about this before. It's super, super important for you guys to make sure that your minus 1 is outside your root. You do not want to have your minus 1 inside your root. So when you've finished typing in your fraction, you're going to press the button to the right once, twice, and then you are going to say minus 1. And I'm getting the same figure that Molebogeng is getting. How did we get the minus 1? I did skip a step. let's go and look at what I did. What happened here was when I square rooted, what I was left with here was this root 5,100 divided by 4,779, 13. And what I would have been left with on this side would have been the 1 plus my I. Remember, in order to get I by itself, I would have transposed my 1. So the 1 would have gone from being on this side, I would have moved it over, and when I moved it over, it would have become a negative. So that is where the -1 came from. When we get our answer, we're getting it as a decimal, which is 0,03302 dot dot dot, which we know if we convert that to a percentage, this is now when we're going to multiply by 100, and we're going to get 3,30%. Okay, are we all happy with this? There we go. Okay. So finance is really easy when you realize that it's the same two formulas over and over again. The only thing that's different is you have to figure out every time what is your unknown. Is my N my unknown? Is my I the unknown? Is A the unknown? Or is P the unknown? Beyond that, you will have figures to fill in all of the other variables. And once you have only one unknown, you can solve up until you reach your answer. Cool. Let's do a few more before we close off. 7 years ago, Mrs. Gray decided to invest 18,000 Rand in a bank account that paid simple interest at 4.5% per annum. Calculate how much interest Mrs. Gray has earned over the 7 years. So with simple interest, I don't have to use my formula for this. I can say, well, it would have been 18,000 Rand multiplied by 4.5% every year, multiplied by the 7 years, and that will give me my interest amount. If this calculation makes you a little bit uncomfortable and you don't know how I got to that, you can use your formula. You can go A is equals to P, 1 plus I times N. But remember, when you get your future value, that's giving me my future value, including this 18,000 Rand. So remember, to get that interest amount in rands, you would have to take your A value and less your P value. So whichever way you decided to do this question, that would have been okay. But because I see this is only for 2 marks, I'm going to go with this calculation. Ma'am, can you move up when it answer 100%? I can. And this, by the way, is 4.5%. 23670. 23670. So let's see. 118,000 multiplied by 4.5% multiplied by 7. Check again, Yvonne. I'm not getting that answer. I am getting 5,670 Rand. Oh, I see, Yvonne, what you did. You went and you gave me my A value. So Yvonne has given me my A value, which is the 23,670. And once I get my A value, remember you must minus your P value. And once you did that, then you would have gotten the same answer that I'm getting over here. Okay. So that is 4.1.1. Let's see if we can finish 4.1.2 and 1.3. Mrs. Gray wants to buy a television set that costs 27,670 Rand now. So immediately I'm seeing now, I'm thinking present value. This is my P. If the average rate of inflation over the last 5 years was 6.7% per annum, calculate the cost of the television set 5 years ago. And now I actually have to change my P value because they're asking me about the past. So actually, this is going to be my A value. The value of my television 5 years ago is going to be my P value, which is what's unknown. 6.7% is going to be my interest, and 5 years ago is going to be my N. So let's go and set that up. So let's do it here, I guess. We are going to have A is equals to P1 plus I to the power of N. Remember, we're dealing with inflation, so compound interest. My A value is going to be the 27,660. My P value is unknown, 1, plus my interest is 6.7%, and my N is 5. Remember, we just divide by this whole bracket on both sides, and we'll get our answer. Somebody tell me, what are we getting here? Whoa, this is crazy. There we go. What are we getting here for P? 27,660 divided by 1 plus 6.7% to the power of 5. Okay, I'm getting 20,000 Rand on the dot. And so this is what my present value would have been 5 years ago. Why did I make this? Why did I know it was my P value? Well, remember, right now, this 27,660 is the amount that they gave me for now. But the amount that they wanted to calculate was 5 years in the past. So because I'm dealing with the past, I had to make the value now my future value. Because in the past, that would have been my future value. And so my P value is what was unknown, and I've now calculated it as 20,000. Okay, I think I'm going to end off on there. Let me go back for Tsehofatso. I'm not sure what it is you wanted to screenshot. Possibly this. So I'll leave it up here for like a second or two.
No, ma'am, I wanted the top side.
This, like all the way up here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Let me, I think I should zoom out a little bit more. I don't know if you're still going to be able to see, but hopefully.